Hi Rachel, it's James. Sorry this video is coming in late. There was a lot of challenges yesterday with the 8th grade trip and me trying to get things ready for the 7th grade. So we'll just get started. So end of the year is coming up and I've noticed a few things. We're finishing up our NWA next week, so I don't have our spring scores yet, but things have been improving as far as scores go. In the fall, we had about an average score of 196 for my 8th grade, and then in the winter scores we had an average of about 207. So there was a pretty large, I would say a 9-point increase in their overall scores for the NWEA. And then for the 7th grade there was this overall increase in scores from fall to winter of about 4 points. And I know I sent you those averages in an email as screenshots, so if you wanted to take a look at those, I'm excited to see how they do next week. I really think that the students will do pretty well on their NWEA, and I think that they'll show an overall improvement for the entire year, and they'll really meet their growth targets, at least the majority of students will. Reflecting on my vision and my goals this year, so one of my major goals was to show some growth in the science NWEA. I really wanted students to be growing at least 3 to 4 points on their scores, because I know the NWEA works a little bit differently than the ACT does up in the high school. So I really wanted, I was looking for a 3 to 4 point growth, because that's typically what our students need in order to get to grade level within their subject. And for science, a lot of my students were just shy of meeting a target, and I'm actually seeing most of my students within the winter score were around the 211, 204, 211 range. So that was a pretty good score, I felt like, and bumping them up even more was just kind of icing on the cake. So I'm excited to see how they do next week. As far as my vision goes, my vision was doing too much. That was something that I really wanted my students to be thinking about, is that we work a little bit harder to get the things that we want. We have to work hard in order to get what we need. And I feel like some students definitely took that upon themselves, and I feel like other students kind of pushed that to a side. And I know one of the things that I did not do my best on was kind of coming back to the vision each year. And I think my vision is still kind of orienting itself. I think it's still evolving. I think I've only worked 2 years with the vision, and both times I feel like it's something that I haven't really come back to, because I guess I'm still kind of struggling and working on what I think the outcomes should be and what my vision for a classroom should be. I know what I want based on standards and based on current practices, but it's not really what Perspectives wants out of their students, which is, test growth. And that's something that's hard for me to really invest myself in. So I think next year my vision is really going to be wrapped around the next generation science standards and whether or not students are going to be able to design their own labs and answer their own questions. So that's one of the things I'm really excited for next year. I do think students met most of their goals as far as science goes. I won't really know until next week how many students are on target and increase their scores, so I can get back to you after that point. Reflecting on myself as a teacher and a leader, I really, really think this year was a struggle for me. There was a strong lack of leadership within our school. There was a strong lack of communication with our school, and then there was a strong lack of a wisdom of what's going on within the building, and that really affected the way that the teachers operated. But one thing I can say is that I feel like I've persevered. I have really used my time wisely as best I could to make sure that my classroom was running as smoothly as I possibly could with the challenges that I was facing. And I feel like one of the major roles I played was helping my 8th grade colleagues really not have to worry about the 7th grade. I took it upon myself to take over their ADL when the ADL teacher left, and I took it upon myself to really plan some things for the 7th grade while the 8th grade were gone. And that's something that I wanted to bring to the table. So I feel like I've really kind of taken quite a bit of charge of the 7th grade this year, while the 8th grade teachers could take control of the 8th grade. I think my greatest strength as a teacher is understanding when it is that you need to be communicating with your fellow colleagues to make the best experience for your students. I really do think that one of my strongest aspects as a teacher is working within a team and working as a colleague and working in a department. And I know that that comes much more easier to me when I have people pushing me in a team setting and the two of us are working on the same goal. Then it makes me much, much better. And I think that's one of the things that I really need as a teacher is I need to communicate and talk and sit down in meetings with fellow teachers who are teaching the same things that I am and saying, hey, what are you doing? What can we do for our next lab? How can we meet this objective? How can we get our students to meet the targets? And kind of tag teaming whatever challenges come across come across the bridge. And I think as a core member, I've changed in the sense that I have a better understanding of the overall achievement gap. I think I have a better understanding of the challenges our students face on a day-to-day basis and how the location of their school and the location of their building or where they live can really affect their overall pathway. That was not something that was really in the forefront of my brain 2 years ago, and it's something that I still struggle with in like how am I going to be able to combat that where I'm going, and what are the things that I can be doing to make a better experience for students who are experiencing the achievement gap. So those are some of the things that I'm kind of left with when I think about my work as a core member and what I need to be doing next year. And as far as our work together goes, one thing that I know that we've noticed is that there is a lack of communication between the two of us, and that's mostly on me. I know that I have not, TFA has been kind of third on my priority list. It's family, then it's work, and then it was TFA when I had the time to get around to it. And that was something that really kind of affected me over the course of the year because of all the challenges MSA was facing. So that was one thing that really was challenging, but what I really appreciate from you is that you made a very strong effort to connect with the current structure that MSA has and Perspectives has to work with core members there, and I think that was a very strong move on your part. I really appreciate that you talked to Beth and that the two of you were able to come to agreement on how are we going to improve James as a teacher? And from that point, it was like there was a common message coming from both you and Beth, and I didn't feel like I was getting two separate messages that I had to work on. I felt like there was just one thing I could do really, really well. So that was something that I felt was a very strong move on your part as an MTLD, and that's my suggestion for you next year, is that you go ahead and you see what types of structures are at the school that a core member might be working at, and if there's already a support system in place, try and see if there's a way that you could work in that support system. And the other thing I think might be beneficial is looking at student data is extremely important, but know that a lot of the times, especially at Perspectives, I don't know what it's like at other schools, this is work that we're already doing almost weekly, and it becomes a little overbearing when I have to do this work and then I have to do the work again a second time for TFA in a different format. And I know that you've been really working and talking, and you made some changes, like I didn't have to fill out the Excel sheet and the tracker, and I could just send you screenshots of my Power School, and I felt that was really useful. So again, looking at what that particular school does on a day-to-day basis, and if there's like a department head that you can connect to, and you can try and get an understanding of what that week looks like for the teacher, so that way you know what challenges they might be facing before the year even begins. So to leave it off, I'm glad I did Teach for America. I really am. I think it's really opened up my worldview. I started education even before Teach for America. As you know, I taught for a year before I came to MSA and I came to Chicago. And although I was faced with a lot of challenges these past 2 years, although I faced some hardships that I don't think teachers should have to face, I think that when I teach next year, I'm going to have a greater appreciation of what quality education really should look like and what quality education needs to look like in order for our students to succeed. And I think these past 2 years have given me a really, really clear insight into how education looks like across our country. And I think next year will probably be my best year of teaching so far. I think that all of that has to do with Teach for America and my experiences these past 2 years. I don't feel like I would be going into next year as confident as I would have been if I hadn't been in Chicago the past 2 years. So again, thank you so much for you being my MTLD. Thank you so much for all the work that you do. I know that you take it upon yourself to do a lot of things for your TFA core members, and that's appreciated. And even though you and I didn't communicate as effectively as we probably could have this year, know that the support and the willingness to help me was always clear, and that I always appreciated that you were somebody who was there to help me. So thank you so much, Rachel. I wish you luck in your future endeavors, and I can't wait to see what you do next. And feel free to contact me if you got any questions or if you need any help with something in the future, or because I know that you're a support system for me, and I will do the same. So thank you so much, and I will see you at our end of the year meeting.